I've reviewed many self-cleaning / automatic litter boxes on this channel. Since then, I have been testing even more, but I've fallen very behind in getting reviews of them finished. This channel is just a side project and not my job, which is as a filmmaker, and that has to take priority as it pays the bills. The Facebook group that I started earlier this year has grown fast, and the number one question is, which machine should I buy? I always say to watch my review series, but they don't include all the machines that I've tested, but I still recommend watching them as you all learn a lot and they're a lot of fun. But it made me realise that this video is needed. A comprehensive overview of all the good and bad that you need to know about them. Jesus. Helped as always by the best testers in the business, my 6 amazing cats. I know some people poo-poo them and say you should only use manual boxes. Well, I say poppycock to that. They make dealing with cat litter so much easier, especially with multiple cats. But this isn't about laziness. The machines filter out the waste after use, leaving a clean litter bed for the next cat to use. How nice is that for them? I've said it before and I'm going to say it again. I wouldn't want to use a toilet that wasn't flushed, would you? The general rule for manual litter boxes is often stated as 1 per cat plus an extra one. With self-cleaning litter boxes, you will rarely need to do that because they should always keep the litter clean, which is good as they aren't cheap. How many can use one box depends on your cat, how well they get on and their behavioural quirks. Before I got Sevi in June last year, my 5 cats shared one. The cat genie was also in the bathroom, but they never used it. Now my cats share 2 litter robot 4s, unless I am testing a machine for review, which tends to be all the time. But 2 is easily enough for my lot. There are many important factors to consider when choosing a machine, but the number one should be safety. If any of them posed even the slightest risk to my cats, then I wouldn't use them and nor should you. Thankfully, almost all the machines I've tested are very safe, as long as you look after them. Do not believe Popo when they say that X5 is safe for kittens. It's absolute rubbish. No machine I've tested is kitten safe. All but the Popo state a minimum weight before you should turn on auto cycling. So yes, you can use these machines with kittens, but only if you keep auto cycling turned off. Just do the cleaning cycle manually when you're next to it, so you can keep an eye on the little rascals. As a man, it's against our code to read instructions, but please do with these, as the safety instructions are an essential read. Persong's Labibot S is potentially dangerous if you don't follow the safety instructions. If you do, then it's perfectly safe. There are various types and numbers of safety sensors that are used. Most will use weight, but there's also entry sensors, radar sensors, which stop a cycle for cat or even the person walks too close to the machine. Most also have anti-pinch sensors in case something obstructs a cleaning cycle. So this Robot 4 also has a sensor inside the waste straw if somehow a small cat managed to get into it, which is pretty difficult given the other sensors they would need to get past first. Personally, I think the more safety sensors, the better. It may mean cleaning cycles get interrupted, but if a cat is messing around in it, then I want it to stop. The only time you don't want the sensors to stop the machine is in a situation like this. In this position, it means litter can get super kicked out.
What a mess!
The pet kit Puramax moves in a similar way, but during the lower leveling part, it won't stop if a cat is detected, so it can avoid this, and it's completely safe. Hopefully Fabulous will update their machine's firmware to fix this. The majority of them use a rotating cylinder or drum style design, which in my experience is superior to ones which use rakes, as those use force to push through the litter, which can result in bits breaking off the clumps. These can pass through the rake gaps and end up stuck at the back of the machine. Rotating ones don't use any force to filter the waste. They use gravity. The clean litter is sifted into a temporary storage area and the waste goes into the bin. If you put too much litter in them, then the excess clean litter will also end up in the bin. So don't go past the marked max levels. There are a couple of other types of machines that I've used. The Popa machine lifts and tilts up when filtering the waste, which works well. Then there's the Cat Genie, which rotates the litter base, and there's a scoop for the poo. The cylinders or drums rotates in either horizontal or vertical direction. The horizontal ones with a bin underneath have a dedicated waste chute that usually rests towards the top of the machine. The vertical ones use the entrance as the waste chute. I much prefer the horizontal cycling machines as I've never had any issues, which I have had with the vertical one. I've had instances where the waste falls out at the back of the vertical cycling Phobulus and Cat Link lights. This happens if clumps are stuck to the wall or mats only fall at the very end of the cycle into where the drum and the base meet due to the angle, and they get pushed out. The Cat Link light is by far the worst culprit here, as it rotates into the machine much more than the others, creating a gap where stuff can easily get stuck. One of the main reasons these clumps don't fall when they're supposed to is because they aren't stuck to the mat, but to the wall. These clipping mats are barely bigger than a litter bed, so if your cat doesn't pee on the litter but above it on the wall, when litter gets kicked over those areas, clumps are formed, they get stuck to the plastic sides, which are not non-stick. That's a double negative. There must be a word that is just sticky, maybe? To avoid this, these mats need to be much bigger, covering the lower half of the machine, much like the litter robots. They vary substantially in size, but that doesn't always translate to a bigger space for the cats. The biggest one I've tested is Pet Snowy's Snow Plus. Only 2/3 of it is the machine. The other 1/3 is literally just a side entrance. At the time of making this video, there are very few open machines, the main one being the Popa X5. There are some others on crowdfunding which may or may not make it to market, and I'll talk about crowdfunding later. The size of the entrance, its height and space inside are significant factors. The Litter Robot 4 has the biggest opening border machines I've tested, followed by the Litter Robot 3. On top of that, they have a step to help the cats get in. If your cats use the machine in the perfect textbook way, which is head sticking out the front and bum over the litter, but as long as they can turn around, the space inside isn't so crucial. But as most of you know, cats do things how they want to. Quite a few have small openings that are pretty high. This made it hard for a couple of my cats to use them until I put a step in front to help them, especially beautiful 16-year-old Percy who has arthritis. I see no reason why these machines can't have a design that includes a step. They've prioritized aesthetics over practicality. There are a number which have nice low entrances. They can be this low as the waste bins are on the side or within the drum itself, rather than underneath. I will talk about the pros and cons of the bin location later. The space inside is important, especially if the entrance is small. Aside from the litter robots, I found the others to be pokey inside. It hasn't stopped my cats from using them, but it would be great to see more machines with bigger spaces inside. If you have a particularly large cat, your choice is very limited. The Popa being open makes sense on paper, but I think you can tell I really don't like this machine or the company for all the reasons I explain in my review, which is linked above and in the description. So for now, it's really just the Litter Robots 3 and 4. Someone needs to make a really good machine with a removable top so it can be used covered or open, like most manual litter trays. The Cat Genie has this, but that's a very different machine because it needs to be plumbed in. Pet Snowy is pretty decent. Snow Plus could potentially be able to do this. I took the top off of it, tricking the sensor with a magnet so it still worked, otherwise it gives an error and won't function. This turned it into an open machine with much more space and no more small opening for them to get into.
Exits this way.
If pets know you can make a half cover to go over this section, I think this would be a great solution for large cats. I don't recommend using it like this, as it's not going to keep the odour in very well, and parts of the machine that shouldn't be exposed are. The Snow Plus has easily given me the least kicked out and tracked litter, because the cats have to go up into the body and turn left to enter the drum. Litter gets kicked out of the drum, but only onto a removable rubber litter trapping mat in front of it. Other machines don't tend to fare so well, but it depends on the height of the litter bed to the opening, and especially if they have a fence. The Litter Robot 4's new standard fence does a pretty good job at stopping litter from getting kicked out. Lollipop is the queen of the kickers, and she was able to have a ball with no fence, and also the original small one. With the Aerobo, I get a lot of this. Still, it's the easiest machine to clean up, as the base is so minimal, any litter underneath the drum goes straight on the floor. You can also buy some 3D printed fences that help a lot. I made my own one initially, but these are better. You can also get some much higher fences or guards for the Litter Robot 3 from LR Things, and some for the Litter Robot 4, which are higher than the standard fence. Hopefully we will see these for other machines being made, as most manufacturers just aren't making them. None have a litter bed comparable to a manual litter box. The biggest is probably the Popo X5, and also the deepest. Severus! However, this hasn't been a huge issue with any of the machines that I've tested. Even Sevi, who's been living with me for just over a year, hasn't had any problems, despite the litter box that she used before this for 14 years was a beach on the Greek island of Skiathos.
It's you, Harriet!
I would say that the Litter Robot 4 litter bed is slightly smaller than that. They all poo on the litter, well, most of the time. When it comes to peeing, that's when my cats really put these machines to the test, especially Chief Tester Bertie. The material used in the different litter mats or liners varies. Most use either a rubbery type or a water-resistant fabric. I've not had any of them get damaged by my cats from digging, but others have. They are all replaceable though. The only issues you might have are when the filter has pretty big gaps. These are so they can work with other types of clumping litter, like tofu. Small bits of waste can fall through the holes. They eventually will get stuck to bigger clumps, but I wish all these machines offered different size holes for their filters. Some do, most don't. The litter robots don't have removable filters and are designed for clumping clay litter. You can use crystal litters which don't clump, but this will require more work, as it will need replacing frequently when they've soaked up as much urine as they can. If you try and use tofu or similar, it's just going to chuck it in the waste bin. Even machines that state you can use tofu litter and have large gaps often still chuck out clean stuff. The Catlink Lite has two different speeds of cycling. The slow one stops and starts, taking twice as long, but with this setting I've had great success with tofu litter, even though the app says it's only for their own mixed litter. The opening size can also be important simply for adding litter. Only some with small openings are able to rotate so the opening is at the top to easily add some more. The Cat Genie is the only one to use washable litter. It was my first self-cleaning litter box and is plumbed in to get water and also into your toilet's waste pipe. The concept is excellent, but my experience wasn't excellent, as it would often miss bits of poo, which would then get washed with water and the solution that you need to buy, then dried in a painfully long 30-minute cleaning cycle, creating a rather interesting smell. The poo it does get also uses the solution to liquefy it and pump it out into your toilet waste pipe. My cats did not like this one. You'd think a machine designed to have a cat pee in it would be sealed to stop any leaks into the machine. In 4 years of using the Litter Robot 3, I've never had a single issue. The Litter Robot 4 wasn't quite so good, as the new 2-part design created a gap between the front of the drum and the front section of the machine. As Bertie pees front left in most machines, it was getting through. Thankfully, Whisker admitted the design flaw and worked to find a solution. I made my own one temporarily, which worked really well, and then they sent me a large prototype fence that went into the machine much deeper and lower, covering over the problem area. It took a while, but eventually they made this available to every owner who needed it free of charge, and this is the fence that now ships with it. Just in a bit more. Straight down the side. The ones with clip-in liners generally have the most problems, as most don't have a watertight seal. PetKit improved their PureMax drum to minimise this, but didn't do it fully, leaving gaps at the front and back. Newer machines like the Furbulas have better ways to clip in by using a plastic ridge, which the liner clips under. Although you need to be very careful that it's positioned perfectly, otherwise you can easily have issues. It only needs to be slightly off. Catlink's new light machine, also known as the Scooper SE, has a ridge, but I've had some substantial leaks as the mat is slightly too small, so any weight pushes it down away from the ridge. Even litter has gotten under there. Hopefully Catlink can get on top of this issue, as it makes the machine unpleasant to clean. This is an ultra-generic machine sold under many different names. One of the many listings for it on Amazon even states that it leaks and that you need to train your cat to pee only directly on the litter. Yeah, good luck with that. I've heard that with some versions of it, they've used silicone sealant around the edges of the mat to stop the leak. That's good, but you won't be able to take it out to clean it. I really don't rate this machine. It feels and looks very cheap, and it's poorly put together, certainly the one I tested. If your cat pees out the entrance, then it could be because the space is too small inside, but not always. In these situations, it is going to come down to training them by keeping an eye on when they go and give them a helpful push in the right direction. The best waste bin I've tested is, yes, once again, the Litter Robot 4. It has a large capacity, not the largest, but it uses the space fully as it spreads the waste evenly across it. This is something that a lot of machines have trouble doing. I made a DIY mod for the Pet Snowy drum to hold the clumps back for a few seconds more to stop the waste from piling up on the left-hand side of the bin. One of my favourite things about the Litter Robot 4 are sensors that give very accurate information on how full the waste bin and litter bed are via the app. No other machine that I know of can do this. Most of them will tell you when the bin is full, but no more. They do this either with an infrared sensor beam or by the lid not being able to close, which the PetKit PureMax and Popa have. I've had some instances where the Snow Plus and Leo's Loo 2 told me it was full too late. The sensors are too close to the top of the bin where the drum goes over it, so if the waste sticks out too much, you can get some nasty smearing of waste around it as it rotates. Some machines have the bin built into the cylinder, making it more compact and potentially even safer in the unlikely event that all sensors fail. The downsides are they don't have much space for waste, and the bin full sensors are either not very good or with the Air Robo are non-existent. The waste compartment door opens and closes with gravity. If there's too much waste in, they cannot close, and each time it cycles after that, there's nowhere for the waste to go, so it'll just end up back in the litter bed. So frequent checking is needed. That's not hard to do, as the door to check it is on the top of the drum.
Still space.
Most can use generic bags rather than the overpriced official ones. Two machines tout their bags are self-sealing. That's true for the Furbulas, but not for the Snowplas. That's simply a mechanism in the drawer pulls the tops of the bag together when you pull it open. There's no sealing or packing. Save some money and buy your own bags. The Furbulas is a different story though, and it's what makes the machine unique. When the bin is full, you press the button and the bag gets packed and sealed. It works well and is super neat. There are two big downsides though. You have to use their bin box, which costs about $20 and gives you just 8 small bags from it. They really need to slash the cost of that in half. The second applies to the Snowplas too, as you should always check on the waste for any health warning signs. I cannot stress this enough. These machines don't make that easy to do. I haven't had any major issues with smell. Most of the machines have the waste bin sealed within them. Only the Popa X5 is external. I did have issues with that bin lid not closing properly, so that did smell at times. One thing that could well affect the smell is if your box is in a humid environment. If it is, then you will need to change the bag more frequently. Some have deodorizing features for inside the globe, which aren't really needed to be honest. Others concentrate on the waste bin with charcoal filters. Machines with large openings make it very easy to wipe them down without doing a deep clean. My mum has a Litter Robot 3 that 2 of her cats use. She's had it for 3 years and has never needed to deep clean it. When you have more cats, the need to deep clean them increases. Also depends on the type of litter that you're using and if your cats aren't peeing on the litter, as well as the health of the cats. If they're peeing more, then it's going to need more cleaning. Be careful cleaning these drums in a tub or shower, as you don't want litter clogging up your drains. And don't clean the bases with a hose, as they have electronics. The Litter Robot and Snowplas drums are nice and easy to clean, as they don't have many nooks and crannies where litter gets stuck. I wish more manufacturers would keep the insides of the drums flush with smooth joints to make cleaning much easier. Something that definitely helps the deep cleaning process is if the machine can empty the litter that's in it into the bin, rather than manually having to tip it out. Some can easily do this, some can't. And others can with a bit of help. For example, the Furbulas opening has a door that can be closed for this purpose. The cat leg light has a lever on the side to cover over the filter, but these still leave bits of litter behind. There's nothing better than the ones which can rotate so the litter empties into the bin beneath. The mats or liners that are removable sometimes need a good soak and time to dry. The Popa X5 one needs a really good soak. Maybe this is going a bit far, and it takes hours to dry, so make sure you've got a spare one. Almost all of the machines have minimal controls on them. They rely on their apps instead. I'm a big advocate for having all your main functions as buttons on the machine in case the app isn't working. The Litter Robots have almost all their functions as buttons, as does the Lavibot S. Apps are beneficial if done correctly. It's not just having the ability to easily change settings of them, but they will tell you when a cat has used it. The more advanced ones will even track individual cats and record their use. They all use the cat's weight to differentiate between them. The problem is, if you have cats of a similar weight, then it won't be able to tell. The accuracy of the weight scales varies, and it really needs to be accurate for this tracking to be of any use. Some, like the Pet Kit Pure Max and Litter Robot 4, seem to be very accurate. The Snowplas is by far the most inaccurate. They give a margin of error of 300 grams, which is a lot for a cat, but even then it can fluctuate wildly and be massively over. Knowing how often your cats are using it and the duration can alert you to potential health issues. I thought the Percy was going more often than the others, so I took him to the vet and discovered he was teetering on the edge of kidney disease. So like his brother Bertie, he is now on a renal diet. A couple of months ago, I saw that Sevi went into it about 12 times one evening. I've actually mounted a Eufy indoor camera on the front of my Little Robot 4s to look in so I can watch them for any potential health issues. And I could see that she was severely constipated and she was suffering. I got her to the vet and she returned to her usual self within a few days after treatment. The Aerobo has a camera built into it. It's absolutely awful quality though. It's there to help it differentiate between the cats. Doesn't work very well though, and you cannot change any incorrect usage in the app. Your self-cleaning litter box will go wrong at some point. They all do. And that's why having great customer support and especially a good warranty is essential. Very few companies offer anything more than a 1-year warranty, especially the Chinese brands. You can't buy replacement parts for them either. The only machines where you can are the Litter Robots and the Cat Genie. This is at the time of making this video. It could change. I hope it does, because self-repair should be possible on all of them. Furbylift did send me a part that was broken, so I could do self-repair, but I don't think it's something that they usually do. It wasn't too difficult to install, but there is a chance you could screw it up and, make things worse. I find it hard to fully recommend even a really good machine if the warranty is short and with no spare parts. Nobody wants to have to buy a whole new machine if it goes wrong outside that period. Whisker and Smarty Pair offer extended warranties for their machines. Buy them. That's my advice. The Litter Robot 4 is my favourite machine for the reasons I've stated, but it's also one of the most expensive. Is it worth it? Well, if you can afford it, then yes, but if you can't, what are the options? Many people buy machines on Indiegogo and Kickstarter because they are cheaper. But there are two main problems with crowdfunding. There's no guarantee you'll ever get it. I paid for 3 that I've never received.
You're going to see me?
The other is you are going to be a beta tester for it. I advise against buying a machine in its first year unless you like being an early adopter like me. Let the kinks get worked out first. This has very much been the case with the Litter Robot 4. The first few months of using it, I had all sorts of glitches. They got resolved, but it was annoying. The Furbilous, Snow Plus and even the Cat Link Lite, which has more issues than the other two, will be much better machines in time once the issues are hopefully fixed. And Furbilous, I'm going to say it again, you've got to get that bin box price way lower. I recommend the Aerobo machine if you are on a budget. It doesn't leak, it's easy to clean, it's very well made, it's very quiet, has pretty accurate weight scales, but that app really needs working on. It's super safe and looks nice. The waste bin is pretty small, and it has no full bin sensor. Also, it lacks good customer service and has just a 1-year warranty. Despite these negatives, for the price, I think it's a bargain. So that's it for this rather long video. Hopefully I've covered everything in it and it was really useful for you. If I haven't and you have more questions, please ask in the comments. And also do join the Facebook group. It's a great community. And if you can, please use the affiliate links in the description if you want to buy anything, because it really helps me make these videos possible. And if you're feeling really kind, there's the super thanks button below this video. My next video, I promise, will be part 1 of my Catio series. I know I keep saying this again and again, but this time I mean it.